Yo, what's happening, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of NFL Talk of Elite Wages. Hope you all had a good weekend. Hope you all had a better weekend than I did, and I apologise to anyone that tailed my plays this weekend. It was an absolute shit show. So it's obviously not the way I wanted to start the first month back in NFL. 2 small winning weeks, week 1 and 2, and then back-to-back losing weeks in 3 and 4. Week 4 in particular was extremely difficult, a bitter pill to swallow as well. So honestly, I've loved all the reads I've had on all the plays I've taken so far. I just feel disappointed that I haven't been able to get those wins. I'm always confident in everything I place. I share my reasonings to help other people understand why I made those selections too, and I hope you all share the same views on my plays as I do. Some things you just obviously can't predict. Half a point loss on an over, like we had in the Texans game. Maybe a pass interference call to wipe out a chunk play, or to gain a chunk play, as the Chiefs found out earlier in the season. A last-minute interception in the end zone, missed field goal, whatever it is. Obviously, you just can't predict those things. A lot of play calling has been suspect, especially in week 4. For the Raiders, that's a team that stands out for me in that aspect. Players haven't played well. Amari Cooper is another one that stands out in that aspect. And obviously, a lot of teams have just crumbled late on as well. Saquon Barkley getting 3 carries in the first 3 drives for the Eagles. He's obviously their main target on offense as well, without Brown or Smith. The Jets not using Hall, all their run game in their game against the Broncos. Obviously the weather was a factor in that one, but still you would have thought they'd leaned on them a little bit more. And obviously again, Amari Cooper dropping easy passes, and he ran the complete opposite direction in some cases as well. So those things make it obviously hard to bet on. It's something that's out of our hands, so we just have to hope for the best outcome and hope for the outcome that we predicted. Admittedly, I've been baited into a few bad choices as well. Cardinals money line against the Lions a few weeks ago was probably the biggest one for me. I should have just stuck to my original preseason reads, and knowing that the Cardinals, they would never win in that game, even if they did have a good victory the week before. But I'm not alone. I've seen a lot of people go through some struggles too, and I've also seen a lot of people killing it and winning almost everything they're placing. So it's just ebbs and flows. Start the season, teams are struggling as well. The Bengals, they only got their first win in week 4, and that was against last season's worst team, the Panthers. So I think favourites in general in week 4 went 3-8-1 heading into Sunday Night Football. So favourites aren't even winning. All in all, I'm not concerned. I've had slumps like this before, and I've not had a losing NFL season so far. So I'm going to trust the process, and I'm asking you all to trust the process as well. And we'll be back in the green before we know it. So I'm just going to do a quick rundown and recap of last week's plays, even though it is a tough one to read on, considering that most of them were losses. So we actually started off with a week of a win on Thursday Night Football. It did get very, very close. That should have been an indicator for the week. I was going to have a difficult week last week. The Cowboys actually won by 5, and the score was 20-15. So the total points in that game was 35. And my bet was the Cowboys money line and over 34.5. So that bet actually won by 0.5 points. So it was a very, very close one. And again, we'll talk about half a point again in a little bit. My second play was a loss. Colts team total under 20.5. This one could have gone either way, to be honest, but ultimately got the loss. The Colts, they scored early on in this game. They made the Steelers look silly on defense, to be honest. They scored 2 touchdowns and a field goal on their opening 3 possessions. They've been a solid run D through the first 3 weeks, the Steelers, so it was really disappointing to see that they got ran all over. Richardson went down early, so it was Jonathan Taylor's show. Taylor ran for 88 yards and a touchdown, and then Flacco came in. He threw another 2 touchdowns against the Steelers. That obviously, I said last week they'd face a regression soon, but I didn't expect it to be in this game against the Colts. but one of those touchdowns should have been called back after a clear hold on TG Watt. That was missed. Potentially, it would have finished on 20 points instead of 27. And another thing as well that's just come out is the officials have come out and said that the foul on Fitzpatrick, I think it was, that shouldn't have stood. That would have called back another touchdown as well. So again, those things that we can't predict. But again, we move on, and I moved on to the next one. This is my worst beat, probably one of the worst beats of the season. The Jaguars and the Texans over 44.5. That was a loss. The half a point that won us in the Cowboys game came back to bite me in the arse, and the Texans and Jags game lost by half a point on their total. The game ended with 44 points, so I missed that by half a point. Both teams had multiple opportunities to get the game in the over, over 45 points, 30 points in the first half. It was looking good at half time. 11 punts and a loss of possession on downs in this game. 8 punts and a loss of downs in the second half. So the second half clearly not as good as the first half. Maybe they just figured each other out. But again, bad beat on half a point there. The next one was the Sunday night football game. I took the Bills plus 2.5. And it was simple. The Ravens run game just beat up the Bills. 271 total rushing yards from Baltimore. 199 being to Derrick Henry on his own after he ran for an 87-yard touchdown. Ravens ran out to a 21-3 lead at halftime after they scored a touchdown in the opening 3 drives of the game. Bills obviously struggled to get it going. They gained only 12 first downs in the game, and all in all, they just didn't capitalise on their possessions. It was a huge loss for Buffalo, but it was a huge win for the Ravens. So, ultimately lost that one quite drastically as well. My last straight bet of the week was the Seahawks team total over 20.5, and obviously ended the week with a win, which was a good solid note to end on after a bad week. Seahawks hit their team total, but it was late in the second half. Walker ran in 2 touchdowns in this game. Geno Smith played a hell of a nice game in this loss as well. He threw for 365 yards and a touchdown. And Kenneth Walker as well. He had 100 scrimmage yards and a hat trick. He scored 3 of their touchdowns. A huge honourable mention to Jared Goff as well, who had a perfect night. 18 of 18 from passing, 292 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and a receiving touchdown as well. As I said in my breakdown for this bet last week, these two teams often play out high-scoring games, and this one wasn't an exception. So I was glad to get a win to end the week. I did have a touchdown parlay as well, touchdown double, and that was Barkley and Hall. That obviously lost. Neither of them got in the end zone. Both of the games didn't go the way I expected, to be honest. Jets were favourites with 7 points, and they lost 10-9, and they didn't score a touchdown as well. Hall ended the game with 10 carries for 4 yards. He added 14 through the air, but he didn't get used, and I'm not entirely sure why. Obviously, the weather in that game wasn't the best, but given their ability and things like that, I would trust Hall. Even Allen. I'd trust either of the running backs with the ball rather than throwing it around. Balls are slippy and things like that. So, yeah, that was a shocking thing, and the most shocking thing about the Jets' loss was Bo Nix. The Jets at one point held him to -7 yards on 7 completed passes, so he only had he had -7 yards on 7 completed passes. How does that even work? He finished the game with only 60 yards in the game, and he obviously got the game-winning touchdown as well. Over to the Eagles game, they were also favourites, but it was a close favourite. It was a 1-point favourite at game time. Saquon Barkley had chances for touchdowns in this game. He rushed he had a long rush of 59 yards to get the Eagles on the 1-yard line, and then they gave the ball to Hurts, who had 2 rushing attempts on that 1-yard line. Eventually got it in on the second attempt, but I believe if Barkley would have had that, he would have ran that in on the first opportunity. The Eagles didn't play well on offense at all. Barkley had over 115 scrimmage yards, but he couldn't stop the Bucs. He only had 3 carries on the opening 3 drives, and again he was the main player without Brown or Smith. So they eventually kind of had to abandon the run game, and ultimately Barkley's usage. he had a season low rushing attempts with just 10 as well. So something to look at for next week. But again, apologies to anyone that tailed last week. It wasn't my best week. We will move on, and we will get a few wins this week. I'm actually really liking this card for this week. I do want to mention, before I mention my Thursday Night Football bet, if you're in the Discord, I dropped 2 early plays for this weekend. No breakdowns yet. I'm going to do that on Friday's episode, but they are there. Take them and get the lines, best lines possible. I've only put them early because I think the lines will move. And if you're not in the Discord, get in the Discord. The link will be in the bio for this. Click on my link tree, go down to Discord, click Discord, join, and you'll see a 24/7 chat with myself and daily college football bets. Always active. Got a good group of people in there sharing plays and sharing thoughts and opinions, questions being asked, questions being answered. But yeah, I've got 2 plays in there, and those plays are the Saints +5. That's against the Chiefs on Monday Night Football, and that's at odds of 1.9. And I've got the Ravens total rush yards at over 163.5 at odds of 1.9 as well. So they're both on the Discord. No breakdowns yet, that'll be on Friday, but lock them in before the lines move. The Ravens total rush yards last week was 188, so you're getting a bit of a discount on this one so far, and I do predict it will go up. But let's get on to Thursday Night Football. That is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Atlanta Falcons, and NFL this week is starting with a divisional matchup between Atlanta and Tampa Bay. Personally, I think it's a huge game for me as a bettor. Obviously, I've had a rough few weeks to start the season, so starting this week with a win would be a huge step forward as well. Tampa Bay are kind of one of those teams that have flown under the radar in the off-season. Off-season and pre-season didn't do too much in terms of additions, didn't add any of those big top targets that everyone's raving on about in the draft. But starting 3-1 is huge. Probably not what people were expecting. Certainly, I wasn't. They've taken down the Lions, Commanders, and then last week took down the Eagles, and Baker Mayfield is absolutely cooking. Their win differential in those 3 wins is +38, so they've not just won, they've won big. Baker is currently 4th in the league for passing yards, 2nd in the league for touchdown passes, and you can't forget he's ran in 2 touchdown passes as well, 2 touchdowns as well. So he's getting it done with his legs and with his arm. On top of that, he's only thrown 2 interceptions as well, so he's been very effective and very efficient with the ball. The Bucs were underdogs heading into both the Lions and the Eagles games, and they put on a solid performance in both, winning both outright. They'll again be underdogs this week against the Falcons, and that is by 3 points. It was 3 points when I locked it in yesterday morning. It's now gone down to it's 2 points, so it's +2 now for the Bucs, but you can still buy +3. I got it at 1.73, so it's still playable odds. But 3 points, I believe they got what it takes to get the win. The Bucs defense have done a really nice job of limiting points up to this point. They've held 3 of their opponents to 20 points and under, and with this, the 3 offenses that they've held under 20 points are being led by solid running backs. So you've got Saquon Barkley for the Eagles, you got Brian Robinson for the Commanders, and then you got the double-headed Gibbs and Montgomery for the Lions. And coincidentally, they won all 3 of those games. They'll now face Bijan Robinson and the Falcons this week. The 2-2 Falcons, they've not started the way they would have liked. Obviously, big additions in the off-season with Kirk Cousins, bringing in Dan Mooney as well, with Drake London, and you trade for Matthew Judon, and then you pick up a nice secondary, and we've got a nice defense all in all anyway, and a nice offense now as well. So they've done some big acquisitions in the off-season, and they will be disappointed to not have started better than 0.500. They obviously look like an improved team when they play, but they will be disappointed in not being able to score many points to start the season, especially in that game 1 against the Steelers. They only scored 10, and then obviously not getting the win against the Chiefs, eventually losing by 5. but having some opportunities to score points. In 2 of their wins, they both came down to the final drives for the Falcons. A last-minute touchdown pass against the Eagles, and a walk-off field goal for the Saints against the Saints. And the Falcons have struggled for most of the game against Philadelphia, and the Bucs were in cruise control from the beginning in the same matchup. The Falcons so far have allowed 4 teams they've faced to score 21 points or more in 3 out of 4 games, and the only exception being the Steelers, who are currently winning games just with their defense, not their offense. The Bucs have been able to score 20 plus points in 3 of their 4 games, all coincidentally the games that they've won. The Bucs have covered the spread in 8 of the last 11 games, and as I said, the Falcons have been able to keep games fairly close, but they are 2-10 in the last 12 against the spread as a favourite, and only 3-7 straight up as a favourite. So I'm going to happily take the Bucs plus 3 at odds of 1.73 on Thursday Night Football this week. So there we go for this episode, all wrapped up. Obviously the breakdown of last week's poor showing, and Thursday Night Football for this week said and done. Obviously you've got those 2 plays as well I mentioned on the Discord. If you're not in, get in. The link will be in the bio. Follow me on all socials, Twitter, TikTok, Discord. Get on any streaming platform. Share to all your friends, everything. Get me out there as much as possible. Hope everyone has a solid Thursday Night Football. Hopefully you tail me and we all cash. And I'll see you on Friday for my full NFL card for the rest of week 5. So catch you later.